Hey everybody, it's time for a new episode of Let's Talk About Butt Stuff. If you're new here, consider clicking that subscribe button and dinging the bell. The bell's going to give you notifications every time we upload new content to the channel, which is about 3 times per week. Also, if you enjoy the content, smash that like button and leave me a comment below. If you haven't already, find me over on the socials at Barrett_Laurie on Twitter or Instagram. Give me a follow and join the conversation there. So, without further ado, let's get into the butt stuff. In a previously released video, I talked about my Remicade infusions, or infliximab, not being approved by my insurance company. In fact, I was denied at first. I wanted to do a video going into a little more depth on what that process looked like for me and hopefully give some folks out there 3 tips that they need to think about when they're going to file an appeal against their insurance company. So, let's get started. I was diagnosed with complex perianal Crohn's disease March 4th or 5th. I wish I had the date off the top of my head, and I totally should know that, but I don't know the exact date. I feel like it was the 4th or 5th. My GI doctor, Dr. Deepak, recommended that I do infliximab injections or infusions, which is also known as Remicade, pretty much immediately. He had said that there were many, many studies that had been done. That was really the only treatment that was effective for people with perianal Crohn's, especially with fistulas presenting as the symptom of flare. It was interesting when he recommended that I do infliximab, Remicade, he did tell me, it'll be, 3-4 weeks, maybe more, before we can get you started. I was like, well, is it not FDA approved? Like, what's, and he said, no, Remicade and prednisone presently are the only 2 FDA approved drugs for the treatment of Crohn's disease. That's not the issue. The issue is the cost. And I just didn't have a concept of it until I was in treatment and then got the bills to get an idea for what that looks like. He's explained to me that infliximab or Remicade infusions were the best possible treatment for stopping the fistulas, kind of calming that area down so they can heal and go away, so I can get the setons taken out. On March 16th, so almost 10 days later, I had gotten a bunch of calls to my cell phone from a number I didn't recognize, and my husband has this cool spam thing set up on my phone, so I was definitely not answering some random spammer phone number. But it come to find out, it was the health insurance provider, because they had sent me a letter which was dated for March 16th of 2020. Where it says, Robert, we've reviewed your request. Your doctor recently asked us to take a look at your request for healthcare listed below in the section labeled Request Details. These reviews are very important, and we know they're personal to you. That's why an experienced healthcare professional considered your health and your health plan as a part of this review. This isn't the news you want to hear, but we can't approve your request. Here's why. The review showed that what you've requested is not medically necessary. Your plan doesn't cover that kind of care. You'll find in-depth information about the clinical review you've asked for in the table below, labeled Details from the Clinical Review. It might help you to talk it over with your doctor. We've told your doctor about your decision, etc., etc. Then on the back, it lays out the details for the clinical review. And that area was interesting. It just said, the request tells us your doctor ordered a drug called Remicade for your bowel problem, Crohn's disease. This drug can be approved under the planned clinical criteria for those age 6 or older when all the following are met. The person has moderate to severe UC, standard treatments such as corticosteroids or immunosuppressants have not worked or cannot be taken. The drug is not being used at the same time as certain other drugs, TNFs, JAK inhibitors, and biologic drugs. The person has no active infections or history of infections, such as TB. And the person has had a TB skin test. The information we have does not show that you've tried other medication. For this reason, the request is denied. It is not medically necessary. It may help your doctor to know we renewed the request using the health plan criteria TNFA. So, essentially, they didn't want to pay for it. And they basically got back to me in about 10 days. So my doctor's office was pretty amazing when I got that letter. I'm going to put it up so that you can see it, and I apologize for reading and looking down for a lot of that, but you see my face a lot as it is. You know, that was a bad day. I did end up calling the doctor's office and having a mini meltdown, and this amazing nurse that handles the claims at my doctor's office kind of talked me off the ledge and was like, look, this happens all the time. They never want to approve Remicade. It's very, very expensive, which I still didn't have a concept of until the end of March, which I'm going to get to, until April, when we get my statement from Anthem from the month of April, and I saw my first Remicade infusion cost and realized why they didn't want to pay for it. But at any rate, so they had denied it. So basically what my doctor did at that point was send over, I had an MRI done, colonoscopy had been done, a bunch of blood work that showed malabsorption, problems. And then of course the two fistulas, and fistulas popping up rapidly together with this flare, this inflammation. They fight back and forth. My doctor sends all that blood work, the MRI, his write-up of its complex paraanal Crohn's, another doctor's write-up of its complex paraanal Crohn's, and the only treatment for this rare kind that's FDA approved, one, and two, has been studied to be effective and shown to be effective, by peer-reviewed studies, and here they are, is Remicade infusions. So from there, my health insurance company basically then 3 days later, days after this first one was sent, my doctor had faxed over a bunch of, a mountain of stuff. And if you have to do this for yourself, if your doctor isn't able or doesn't have someone on staff that handles all of this fighting and fussing with the insurance company, I'll give a few tips at the end of this for what you need to keep in mind when you're going through your appeal process. 3 days later, I got, we received your additional information about previously denied requests. With this additional information in hand, we were able to review the service listed on the table, and we've approved it for coverage. Means based on the information you've given to us, the service is considered medically necessary under your plan. So, and of course it was, because it's the only thing that's been shown to work, so yay. Okay, so then I'm all like, okay, that was weird. It's my health insurance monthly statement of what's happened. It says, I'm in a PPO. It gives my infusions charges and the total charges to walk in the door and sit down in the chair and have the Remicade infusion to the insurance company is $17,990. So let me repeat that. The infusion that my doctor wants me to have every 6 weeks for maybe forever costs $17,990. Cool. So the discounts, which I'm gonna just go out on a limb and say it, I wasn't super impressed with the discounts on the drug cost fee. But anyway, the discounts come to $7,537.97. The due to your doctor amount of $10,452, and then of course that my insurance paid all of that because I had hit my deductible 2 months prior. So this was my first kind of wake-up call to, insurance companies are in business to make a profit. And so if your treatment that is going to be necessary, medically necessary, for possibly the rest of your life, is going to cost them $18,000 every time you walk in the door, this is why they're fighting Remicade. This is why they're denying it for you. And it's sad that it's about that it's about money, when it's truly medically necessary. I would not be able to sit like this right now if not for Remicade. Before Remicade, I was having fistula after fistula pop up, could not sit down, terrible pain, couldn't drive car. It's my magic nectar. And you're telling me that it costs the insurance company $10,000 after the discounts. This is more to just talk about for people out there. If you get denied, here's what you can do. So if your doctor doesn't have somebody who can handle this on their own. I'm going to put a link below to an article that I found just incredibly, incredibly helpful. It was written by an attorney named Jennifer Jaff. I hope I'm saying her last name correctly. And she's with the Oli Foundation. There's a link to her article, which gives 3 steps that you'd want to take anytime you're filing an appeal with an insurance company. And it's from a lawyer's point of view. It's thorough. It's going to tell you what you need to do. But I'm just going to give you the top of line 3, and then please go read the piece and subscribe to this organization if you want, more information on this and other topics related to healthcare. So the 3 critical steps. Step 1, in a letter denying the coverage, which I read to you earlier, for the treatment your doctors propose, there will be a statement offering to send you a copy of the entire file, including their internal clinical criteria. Take them up on it. So, if you're doing this for yourself, when I got my letter that I read to you that you saw in a couple of clips ago, take that information and write them in a letter stating, I am going to appeal this. I need you to send me my entire file, including internal criteria. Step 2, you want to gather objective medical evidence. So that would be the peer-reviewed studies that my doctor found that said that for people with perianal Crohn's that's coming forth due to anal fistulas, the only treatment that had been shown to be effective was Remicade. So there were multiples of those, 3 or 4. They also specifically talked about how prednisone, which was the medically approved for Crohn's, they wanted to step me up to Remicade and let me try prednisone, a steroid, for months and months at a time. So, anyway. Basically, you want to gather that objective medical evidence. So that's going to look like your test results, your lab results. In the case of anybody with IBD, you'd want to focus on malnutrition or spots where you're not absorbing either your medicines, immunosuppressants, or your vitamins that you're getting from food effectively. So you'd want those things. You'd want your MRIs, your colonoscopies, anything like that could strengthen your case to talk about the inflammation or whatever those tests showed. Also probably get your doctor to, if they're not handling the appeal, which would not be how my experience went, but if you're doing this for yourself, I would assume you'd want your doctor to write something to the effect of sort of an overview of your case. My patient has X. The studies here show that is the most effective treatment. I believe that is the most effective treatment based on these test results or these MRI, blood work, whatever you need. And then you send it back. The last part is your appeal letter. And this is described beautifully in the newsletter I'm going to link to below. Go there and read it. But the basic from the top is you don't want to just send your medical records. You want to make the argument, right? So you want to make the argument that whatever they used to deny you, I think mine was not medically necessary, where they were literally able to point to studies that said this is the only treatment that's been shown to work in multiple peer-reviewed journals from the lady that handles this for my doctor's office, that the people making the decisions are like nurse practitioners, which is fine for nurse practitioners. I'm just saying I was surprised it wasn't actually like a GI doctor that makes that decision. Not necessarily. And that was kind of proven to me when the nurse that called me from the insurance company to help wanted to pass me on to a nurse practitioner to discuss why they had declined my claim. And I asked, well, why an NP? Like, do they specialize in GI med or what's the deal? And she goes, no, actually, I think it's pulmonary was what it was. And he's specialized in pulmonary, but he's over the department I work in, trying to sound like very, I don't know, just again, I was very paranoid about the whole situation. So I did not take the calls from the insurance company. My doctor's office did that for me. But if you're doing that for yourself, I'm going to leave the link below for the best newsletter for advice for what you should do to handle your own appeal and likely come out on top. I wish you the best. Check out that newsletter. It is going to go into great detail about what you should do. Otherwise, work with your doctor. Do every test they ask you to do quickly. There's a reason for it. If they ask you to follow up and see another doctor, in my case, we had to gather info about whether I had more fistulas forming. That required me to go see my other doctor, who was like, well, yeah, we cannot do Remicade and wait a few months, but so far in the first 3 months of the year, we've put him under for surgery twice, which is probably more expensive than the Remicade. That made that an easy argument, I think. But for everyone else out there, I would say, do everything your doctor tells you. If they tell you to not worry about it and let it play out, let it play out. They've done this before, they know what they're doing. If you have a different experience or you have some advice for someone out there who's getting ready to appeal an insurance denial, a health insurance denial, put it in the comments below. For anyone out there who's been denied, I know that feeling. It's gut-wrenching to get the letter that the one thing that your doctor told you needed to get better, to just be better, has been denied and taken away from you is devastating. And if that's happened to you, I'm so sorry. It sucks. I appreciate you being here. Hope you have a great rest of your week.